Now, if you're a data geek like me, you may think, well, as long as I have the data, the facts, I should be okay. The data should speak for itself. Well, actually, I'm going to break it to you that basically stories are more powerful than just raw statistics. In fact, there's a great quote here from Robert McKee, who said he's a screenwriting guru, basically trains all of the screenwriters in Hollywood how to write good scripts. And basically, he said that storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. And I really agree with that. And I have a couple of ways in which stories do beat statistics. And these are taken from a book called Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. Excellent book on communication if you're interested. But basically, they outline two ways in which stories beat statistics. And so the first one is they're more memorable. And there's actually an example of Chip Heath. He's a professor at Stanford University in California. And he teaches an undergrad communication class. And one of the exercises that he puts the students through is he gives them a bunch of data on a topic, and he gets them to take a side. And then they're supposed to argue using the data their point. And so they prepare short presentations, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. They form up into groups. They make those presentations. And then 10 minutes go by. They kind of evaluate, give feedback on each other's presentations. And then they think the exercise is over. Well, 10 minutes later, he comes back to them and he asks them, how many of you remember any of the statistics that were shared? Now, a little side note here, 1 in 10 of the students they'll incorporate a short story in their presentation, a short anecdote or something in their pitch. And the interesting thing is that when people heard stories, they remembered them 63% of the time, whereas only 5% of the people could remember the statistics. So stories are much more memorable. They engage us as human beings. And so that's something we want to tap into. The next thing is that stories are more persuasive. And so if we look at another study that they had mentioned in this book, it was from Carnegie Mellon University, where they conducted a technology survey. And so they had a number of students take the survey. And then at the end of the survey, they offered them 5 $1 bills. And they said, would you like to donate to this charity, some of this earnings that you got from taking this survey? And this is actually where the experiment began, because they had 2 versions of the pamphlet or the document that they shared with them. And one version had a lot of data. It was for a real charity called Save the Children. And they talked about the suffering of kids in Africa, due to famine, war, illness, and had a lot of statistics. And then they had another version where it talked about a 7-year-old girl from Mali. Her name was Rakia, and talked about the suffering of her family and how, this money could really benefit her family. And so the interesting thing is what they found is that the statistics version underperformed the storyboard version. Basically more than double the average donations went to the story version as opposed to the statistical version. So those are the 2 main reasons why we want to leverage stories, is because they're memorable and they're persuasive.